Hello everybody, welcome to today's video. So today we're going to do a prediction on the 2020 presidential election between the incumbent president Donald Trump and the former vice president Joe Biden. So I know I made a video of this matchup before, but that's just a while ago, and a lot have changed. And yeah, Donald Trump just said that he wanted a 2020 match with Joe Biden in the presidential race, and I think this is quite interesting. And yeah, Biden, I think, is a potential candidate for the Democratic Party, and yeah, a lot of Democrats are enamored of him, and I think he may run in 2020, although he lost in 08 and 1988, but in 2020 the context is different. He then is the former vice president, and yeah, he's quite popular in his own party, and I think that would help him gain his nomination. And so this matchup is between him and Donald Trump, the incumbent president, who's obviously running for re-election and would definitely get renomination from his party. So first of all, we're gonna fill states that are safe for Joe Biden, and then the states that are safe for Donald Trump. So West Coast states, Illinois, and those northeastern states are going to hold their Democratic identity and just vote for Biden. Biden is pretty popular, and yeah, they would definitely vote for him. And now the states that are going to vote for Trump are those deep red states, those typical Republican conservative states. They're not going to vote for Biden in any way. I don't see Biden winning in any state of this. So 180 electoral votes for Donald Trump and 182 electoral votes for Joe Biden. So Arizona and North Carolina would go for Donald Trump. I explained why they would go for Donald Trump in previous videos, and you might check them out. This gives Donald Trump 26 extra electoral votes. And the state of New Mexico and Colorado, these two states are going to vote for Biden, in my opinion, because they have a pretty liberal identity. They have a Democratic tilt, and they've gained it since the election of 2008. And yes, they once voted for George W. Bush, but they're not the same states that did so, and now they are somewhat Democratic, and that just gives Joe Biden an upper hand here. So he would definitely win these two states, and he would definitely win the state of Virginia. The state of Virginia has a lot of educated and moderate voters, and Trump doesn't appeal to them. I mean, the race was not that close in 2016, and Hillary Clinton was unpopular, but the race wasn't close in this state. And also in 08 and 2012, the race here was went for Obama-Biden ticket, and yeah, Biden is very, very popular among Democrats, and yeah, he would definitely just call out those Obama voters to vote for him. So yeah, 13 electoral votes more for Biden. And now going into the state of Nevada, this one I see going for Joe Biden, because it's a state that voted for Barack Obama twice, and it voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016, and yeah, Biden has that appeal to minority voters. I mean, he was Obama's vice president, and Obama just appeals to minority voters, not just African Americans, but also women and other ethnic minorities. So I think Joe Biden would win Nevada's 6 electoral votes. And now the state of Iowa, I see going for Donald Trump. It went for him in 2016 by a big margin, although it also went for Joe Biden and Obama ticket in both third elections. And yeah, Biden may be able to make the race here more competitive, but at the end of the day, I see Trump winning his 6 electoral votes. So 212 electoral votes for Donald Trump and 215 electoral votes for Joe Biden. Now, going to the state of Florida, this one I think would be so hotly competitive. I mean, it voted for Obama and Biden and then flipped to vote for Donald Trump in 2016. I mean, it's a swing state, of course, but it would be extremely competitive than we've ever seen. So I'm gonna leave it for now, actually. So now I'm going to the state of Maine, and I think the second district would go for Donald Trump. He won it by a big margin, and I see Biden winning it back. But the first district would go for Biden, as well as the state itself would go for Biden. They're not going to go for Trump, since Biden is quite popular, and yeah, the first district is sure thing for Biden, but the state itself is a toss up, and I've seen Biden narrowly carrying it. It's 2 electoral votes, so this gives Biden to 218 electoral votes. And now the state of New Hampshire, I see going for Biden, and yeah, it went for Biden, it went for Clinton, it went for Obama, and it went for Clinton, and although the margin here was close in 2016, I think Biden would be able to widen the gap, the margin, in 2020. I mean, he's popular, and Hillary Clinton was unpopular, and Joe Biden is pretty flawless, and I think he would definitely carry the state of New Hampshire. But yeah, that puts Joe Biden at 222 electoral votes, just 222. And now going into the state of Minnesota, I think the people of Minnesota would favor Biden over Trump. I mean, the race here was very close in 2016, but I think Biden would be able to edge out Donald Trump in the state by a slim margin. But going into the state of Ohio, this one I see going for Donald Trump, because it voted for him by a considerable margin in 2016, and it's become more and more Republican, actually. Although it's Joe Biden may make the race competitive in this election, but at the end of the day, I see Donald Trump eventually winning. It's 18 electoral votes. And now going into the state of Pennsylvania, it's Joe Biden's home state. I think it would go for Joe Biden. I mean, Trump's margin of victory in this state in 2016 wasn't that big. In fact, it was just a tiny margin, and I think Joe Biden is able to flip it back, and yeah, it's his home state, so he would definitely carry its 20 electoral votes. And now the state of Wisconsin, this one I think would be so competitive, as well as the state of Florida. I mean, yeah, Joe Biden has that working class appeal. He appeals to working class voters, and yeah, and by that means Wisconsin voters. But I think a lot of counties in the state of Wisconsin have moved more to the Republican side. But yeah, the race here, the state at large is still a toss-up state. It's still a swing state, and I think both Donald Trump and Joe Biden have that working class appeal. But now we're not sure who will prevail. But in this case, I will give Donald Trump a victory here. I mean, yes, he won it by a bigger margin than he won it in Michigan. And yeah, as I said, some counties in this state have moved more to the Republican Party side, so it's a slim victory for Donald Trump. But now the state of Michigan, this one I see going for Joe Biden. Donald Trump won it in 2016 by a small margin, and I think it's easily flippable. And yeah, the state of Michigan still has that mild Democratic tilt, and also it has a lot of working class voters, and Joe Biden appeals to them, but Donald Trump also does. But I think Joe Biden would be able to outperform Trump in this state. So yeah, and also yeah, because the auto bailout under the Obama administration, Joe Biden would have the upper hand here, and easily, not easily, just narrowly edging out Donald Trump. And now the last state, which would determine the presidency and this entire election, the state of Florida. And I think it would go for Donald Trump, because there are a lot of white conservatives moving into the state, and Trump's approval among Hispanic voters is doing pretty well. And yeah, the state of Florida has that Republican trend, and I think it's existential. So Donald Trump would be able to win it, and finally he would win 270 electoral votes just at the threshold, and Joe Biden would just win only 268 electoral votes, just 2 electoral votes short of that threshold. So this is how the final electoral map would look like in this scenario, as of my prediction today. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. You can like, share, and subscribe it, and you can like, share, and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see y'all later.